Okay, welcome to drawing a one-point perspective. Today what we're going to do is work on a project that will look like this. We're going to basically get our drawing set up. We'll do the outside. We'll do a door with some steps leading up. We'll do a window that's recessed. We'll learn how to make things look like they're going out or coming into the room, either from the side walls or from the ceiling. We'll draw a three-dimensional object, like we'll probably do a couch. We'll learn the crating method, how we draw the outside shape, and then we start subtracting away. We'll also learn how to do some wood flooring, like this. And I'll probably show you how to do some checker or tile flooring like that. So this is pretty much what we're going to work on today and get set. And then we will look at a lot of different examples and then start shading our projects in. The first thing we're going to do is just look at a variety of one-point perspectives. Then when you're done with actually going through the process of making this, you can rewind your video, go back to some of the samples that I'm going to show now and just freeze frame on them if you'd like to try to replicate something that you've seen. Basically the project, you'll have to have a door, you'll have to have a window, a couple of skylights, you'll have to have a couple of three-dimensional objects, some kind of flooring, something in the background. So as we look through these different drawings, just kind of get ideas of what you might want to do. And realize you can always go back through the video and kind of look at these later. And we also will have books like this. And you can just take the book or take the drawing with you and set it next to you and kind of replicate what you're seeing. This one's very good. Remember the common themes that we want to show in this, which is closer is larger and lighter, farther is smaller and darker. They do a good job with that. They have a lot of nice shading with gradients on the windows and the bookshelf. Few three-dimensional things. They have some steps. Here's another one. Not quite as good as contrast. See how this one is very, very dark? This one's kind of all in the same shade of gray. Try to mix it up a little bit more so you have super dark, medium, and then all the way to light. Even the tiles on the floor here, you can see they go dark and then they get lighter as they come out. The more you have super dark and super light, the more it's going to pop out. That's a good drawing. Very nice wood flooring. Really gives the 3D effect along with these. See how they're getting larger as they come out? It's that effect that gives your drawing depth. Depth means it looks like it's three-dimensional. Here's another one, really nice shading. Each of the individual books being shaded. The tile, it's getting lighter as it comes out. Really nice shading in the fireplace, the little gradient there. I zoom in on that a little bit. You can see how it goes from dark to light. That looks really good. Here's another one. We got some really, really outstanding books. Each one individually shaded. They have the desk. Nice. This one they got the balcony, the fish tank. Lots of 3D things. Notice the bottom is shaded darker because it's facing down. More complicated steps going into the floor, continuing into another room on the side. Lots and lots of detail on all of those. Curved windows. Really, really nice shading on this. If we look at the, zoom in on this side. If we look at that, each one of those bricks is individually shaded. The logs are shaded with gradients, so it goes from light to dark, and the bottoms of the logs look darker. It makes it look like it's three-dimensional. Some more. It's a rather simple one, but there's nothing wrong with that. I like the glass effect. That one that's going darker, farther, and then it's getting lighter as it comes out to you. This one, the vanishing point, instead of being in the center, is shifted over to the side. Nice, very dark and then very light. Even the tables see through, they can see the legs, and it's a nice gradient. Here's one that's shaded really well. And notice the nice, very, very high contrast. There's super dark and then there's light. Here's another high contrast. I like that one. You can see the steps. You're following the steps up. As you get to the vanishing point, you go from seeing the tops to starting to see the bottom of the steps. We'll learn about that when we do our 5 block drawings. This one's got really, really nice shading on the tiles. Nice line quality, nice crisp, clean lines. High contrast. Sometimes they just do it all like that. That's a variety of different examples. A simple one. High contrast. Any of these drawings, you can always, if you want to replicate something that they did, you can just rewind this video and then pause it on that screen and kind of look and try to replicate it. Remembering that there's only 3 different kinds of lines. They're either vertical, horizontal, or they're going to the radiant point, the vanishing point in the center. There's an interesting one. Those are all different examples of one-point perspectives. And right now what we're going to get started with is basically doing this, and I'm going to demonstrate this whole process. You should have your pencil, you should have lead, erasers, you should have your T-square, your triangle, and you should have your sheet of paper taped down. And you want to double check that sheet of paper and make sure it's lined up perfectly. Push your T-square up against the side and make sure it's lined up perfectly at the bottom. If it's not, retape that down. If you're off by a little, it's going to throw your whole drawing off. Okay, we're going to basically start then with drawing this. We're going to draw the outsides. Get zoomed in here, right? We'll draw the outsides. Then we'll draw this door, put the frame around it, draw some steps going up. Then we're going to move over to the window. I'll show you how things can go out or come in. We'll draw the skylights. Then we'll draw the couch on the floor, extract it up, make it into a crate, and then I'll show you how to do 2 different types of flooring. I'll show you how to do wood flooring like this, then I'll also show you how to do tile flooring. Okay, first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to take my T-square, flip it upside down, and I'm going to draw diagonal lines from corner to corner, exactly right on the corner, not kind of in the general direction of the corner, but right on the corner. And I'm going to draw this as a light line. This is a construction line. I'm going to draw it a little darker so it'll show up. You can draw it as light as you want. There's 2 kinds of lines. There's construction lines and there's object lines. If we look at a drawing like this, we can see that there's all sorts of light lines, and then we select to darken up certain lines. Right now I'll draw everything as construction lines. And then later we'll darken up the ones that we need. You can draw them as light as you want. I have to draw them a little darker so we can at least see them. Start with that. So we drew 2 diagonal lines. The next thing now is I'm going to draw this back wall. I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller than that. And I'm not going to tell you a size because this is a perspective drawing. We're not really measuring on this drawing. Just kind of eye it up and make it about that size. So I took my T-square, I made sure it was pushed up against the left-hand side over there. Make sure it's pushed up against that edge. It can't move around. If it moves around, it's going to throw your whole drawing off. It won't work at all. So push it up against the side, and I drew that one horizontal line. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm now using my T-square pushed up against the side and my triangle, and I'm going to draw a vertical line down from there and a vertical line down from here. Now, if you tape the paper down correctly, if you drew the lines directly from the corners of your sheet of paper, when I draw this line across, these two should line up perfectly, which they do. Now that's basically the back wall and the ceiling, the floor, and the side walls. Now the next thing I want to do is just erase all of this that we're not going to need. And that's why you want to do those as construction lines, so when you erase them they disappear all the way. And then I'm also going to mark just with a light mark in the center where my vanishing point is. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom over in on this side and I'm going to put in my door and then start doing some stairs. Okay, just square this up a little bit. Okay, zoom out just a bit. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm using my T-square and my triangle and I'm drawing a vertical line. That's going to be the side of the door. Then I'm going to come out, kind of eye it up and look at it. How big do I want my door? Well, that'd be a little thin, that'd probably be a little wide. Maybe somewhere right in here. That looks like a good door shape. So the two sides of the door are vertical lines that we draw with the T-square and the triangle. The top of the door is going to be a radian. Now this is where most people make a mistake. They just kind of draw it across. It has to go exactly to our vanishing point. So I kind of put it right on the vanishing point and swivel. That's going to be the top of the door. I got a little left over and then I erase that. And that's why you draw those as construction lines. Draw them light so when you erase them they disappear. I might put a border around my door. Now this one, I'm going to draw this one fairly thin because this is farther away. And then I'm going to draw this one. It should be a little thicker if that's the trim of the door because that's farther. This is closer, so it should be larger. That side's going to be a little thicker. And then the same thing on the top of the door. Again, it's got to go directly to the vanishing point right here. If it's not going, you can't just eye that up and go, it's somewhere over here. It goes directly to that vanishing point. That's going to be the top of the door. Should look like that. Okay, next thing is going to be these steps. You can see the steps kind of look like this. And it's not really that complicated. It's going to be a horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. And then from each of those intersections, we're going to be drawing radians coming out from the vanishing point. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit more so you can really see what I'm doing here. That'll work. And like I said, I'm going to draw a horizontal line and a vertical line. Then a horizontal line. And then I use the T-square. Then I use the T-square and the triangle to do the vertical line. And then just keep going. And I'm just making all of those approximately the same size. Just eye it up. Okay, that's all my horizontal and vertical lines all the way up to wherever. Now the next thing I'm going to do is draw my radians out. So basically I drew this. Now I'm going to draw all of these going out. Now what I'm going to do, I want these to be nice and thin, crisp lines, so I take a sheet of paper and I'm going to kind of chisel my lead, so instead of being flat it makes a nice point, like that. And then I'm going to pull all these out with a nice thin crisp line. And all of those have to go directly to the vanishing point. Notice how I'm taking this, I'm just kind of swiveling it right on the vanishing point here. If it doesn't, you can't just eye these up and kind of go in that general direction. All of these are going directly to that vanishing point, right at it. And each time I draw a new one, I check and make sure is it going right to that vanishing point. And then the last one's going to look like that. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we're going to swing over to the other side here. I have to square this up a little bit. And here, we're going to draw a big window. That's going to look like this. To the outside, we can look at this window. Those are two vertical lines. The outsides there are radians, and then I'll show you how to make it look like it's 3D or going into the wall there. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is pick this window, and I'm going to draw the two sides. Push the T-square up against the side, zoom down. I'm going to draw a line from up there to there. I don't want it to go too low, because I'm going to put a couch there and I don't want the couch to have to cover up that window. I'm just kind of planning that out. Those lines, draw those light. I drew those a little dark just so you can see them. It's easier to erase them when you draw them really light to begin with. That's going to be the bottom of the window. So the sides of the window are two vertical lines drawn with the T-square in the triangle. The tops of the window and the bottom are radians going to that vanishing point. Okay, now the next thing we need to talk about is, so far everything that we've drawn is just kind of on the surface. Let me zoom out. Okay, now we need to talk about, say I'm working on the ceiling and I want something to be hanging down. If I want something to be hanging down like that, I would just draw vertical lines. Those appear to be hanging up, down from the ceiling. Or if I want things sticking up from the floor, I would just draw vertical lines. Those lines appear to be sticking up. In the window, if I wanted something sticking in or out, if I wanted it sticking, these would be horizontal lines. Those horizontal lines appear to be sticking out of the wall or going into it. So on this window that I'm working on right now, I want this to appear to be going outside. Get the vanishing point in there. Get the whole thing. There we are. So what I'm going to do is draw a horizontal line this way and a horizontal line this way. Vertical line up. So basically it's just two horizontal lines and a vertical line connecting. That makes it look like it's going outside. And then to complete it, I draw two more radians. A radian going this way and a radian going that way. And that's my window. Okay, next thing, I'm going to go up onto the roof area here, or the ceiling I should say, and I'm going to draw two skylights. So I want to zoom in a little bit so we can see that. I guess this will have to work like that. Okay, next thing. Okay, we are going to be drawing this. Two of these. So I'm going to start with the outsides. Horizontal line, 2 radians. Same thing on this. Horizontal line. The outsides are 2 radians going to the vanishing point. I'm going to try to keep those as equal in size as possible. So I'm going to draw horizontal lines and try to keep those approximately the same size. Then I'm going to draw 2 larger ones up here. That's going to be the backs. Just draw that like that. Now, from the vanishing point, this is going to be the sides of those skylights. That's one. That's the other one. That's that one. Now I want to eye these up and keep them kind of even, so probably about right here. That's going to be that one. I'm going to erase my extra lines. Darken that up later. Okay, there's my 2 skylights. Zoom out a little bit here so we can really see it. Now I want to make those look like they're going into the ceiling. So I'm going to start with this one. And what I'm going to do, now remember we did this. If I want it to look like it's going into or hanging down from the ceiling, I draw a vertical line. So this line is going to be vertical. Whoops. We draw vertical lines. That one's going to be vertical. So I draw this vertical line up. I draw a horizontal line across, again making sure I'm using my T-square. Like that. Like that. Then I'm going to go over to this other side, do the same thing on this one. Draw a vertical line up. Horizontal line across, and then a radian going right to that vanishing point in the center, extending out. And then at this point, that's what we have. The next thing that we're going to work on is going to be working on the couch down in this area. Lock that out. Okay, so we're going to start with a couch that looks like this. This is probably one of the more complicated things we'll do on this drawing. This we're going to use the crating method, where basically I'm going to draw it on the floor, then I'm going to extract it up, draw the top, and make a block or a crate out of it. Then I'll start subtracting parts out of this. So this, we definitely want to use construction lines. Let me get zoomed in on exactly the area that we're going to need here so we can really see what's going on. Okay, so this we're going to have to really use construction lines on, because a lot of the stuff that I'm drawing right off the bat we're not going to see. So I'm just going to draw all these lines light. I'm going to make a nice long couch, fill up the whole area. I planned it out so the window's up a little ways, so that'll give us a little bit of room for the couch. So I drew 2 horizontal lines. That's going to be the sides of the couch on the floor. Then I'm going to draw a radian for the back. Go from there to there. And then a radian for the front of the couch. And then I just kind of look at the shape. I'm like, does that look like the shape of the couch? Is it long? Is it too short? I think that looks okay. I'm going to clean up. And notice how I'm drawing these lines a little bit lighter. Okay, that's first thing you do is you draw it on the floor. Now what I'm going to do is draw a vertical line up from each of the corners And that's basically going to extract this off the floor. Always making sure your T-square is pushed up against the side and the triangles on that, so those are perfect vertical lines. Then I'm going to start in the front and I'm going to draw a horizontal line across. From each one of those, I draw a line back. And I pull that line to where it intersects the back corner. So there's the back corner, that's where it intersects. Same thing here. Now this line really got close to my corner, but it's just a little off from there. Now if I did a good job, when I put my T-square on here, push it up against the side, these should be straight across, which they are. Now from that point you want to start erasing. And I'm going to erase everything that I wouldn't see if this was opaque. Right now it looks like it's see-through. Well, I wouldn't see any of this stuff. I wouldn't see those. I wouldn't see this. If you want to take your box and darken it up, that's fine. I usually don't darken it up till I'm done. And that's basically the crating method. I made a crate that's going to contain that couch. Okay, the next thing, I'm going to draw the top and draw the arms. That's a horizontal line. That's a radian. See the thickness of this arm. Well, this arm should be thicker because it's closer to us, so make sure you make that thicker. That should be smaller, that should be bigger. That's that. The next thing I'll draw, that's basically what we'd see on the top. Now I'm going to concern myself with this front surface. And I'm going to pull that down, that's kind of the arms. This bottom will come across like that. This is actually going to be the pad. I'm going to erase a couple of things so I don't get confused here. Like that. This little line should get erased there. Then this part will go back here. Go like that. We'll have a small radian here. This is going to be for the back of the couch. Like that. You want to split this pad. So it goes back like that. And when we're done, darken everything up, it should look like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is start working with the flooring. I'm going to show you how to do hardwood flooring like this. Now the flooring really gives it some pizzazz because it makes it look like it's 3D. It's that flooring that really makes it feel like it's popping out at you. Okay, so what I'm going to do, so we're going to start by dividing all of these lines up as even as possible. I'm not telling you a thickness, don't measure it, just eye it up. You got to get used to eyeing it up. So I'm going to start on this edge of my drawing right here. We zoom out so we can see the whole thing. Okay. And I'm just going to eye these up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm doing is just going through this and eyeing it up and trying to keep them as even as possible. And hopefully when I get to the end, I kind of came out with a little one there, but just going to have to be as good as I can do. Okay, then on each one of these, I'm going to take and connect them. Around the camera. And each one of these connects from the vanishing point right to that point that I made. This really gives it the 3D effect. It makes it look like it's coming out at you because we're showing that farther is smaller and closer is larger. When we shade it, we'll show that closer is lighter and farther is darker, and we'll see how that kind of naturally occurs. So I finish these up. Okay, and that's a start. Now the next thing we have to do is start working on these. Now these lines, all these ones that make them into the individual slats, are all horizontal lines. So these are all radians, all the way across. Now we want to start doing some horizontal lines. What I do, and let me zoom in here on this edge. What I'll do is a small, a medium, and then a large. And then that one would run off. And you do that for each one. So it's small, medium, large. And then that might run all the way out. So small, medium. Actually, this one will get one here. Keep them irregular. Don't keep them, if they all look the same, they're not going to look right. Looking at examples of that. There's a decent example of some hardwood flooring. Notice even the nail holes get smaller as they go back. There's an unshaded version, which works almost just as good. The next thing that we'll start working on is going to be doing tile flooring, trying to keep it look like it's checkered. That's difficult because the goal is to keep those all even so they all look like squares all the way across, and that's very difficult. That's going to be the next thing that we do here. Here's some more examples of that. Like that. Okay, the next exercise that we're going to work on here is doing tile flooring. We looked at a couple of examples like that of hardwood flooring. Now what we're shooting for, making it look like tiles. Here's a few different examples of checkered or tile flooring. The trick is to try to keep them all as regularly shaped as possible. Plain and simple like that is fine. Notice this one goes from darker to lighter. This one I like the shading on the individual steps because there's kind of a light spot on each one. It makes it look three-dimensional. It's darker at the edges. There's obviously a very, very well done drawing. Okay, so I've basically taken and set up this drawing. Similar to hardwood flooring, except these are a little bit wider. And then what I'm going to do is start with my T-square. And I'll start by just drawing a horizontal line across. And then what I do is I look all the way across. Does that look square? Well, that's going to be too small. Right about there is right. And I draw that line across. Then I go on to the next one and I do the same thing. What's about square? You know, that's going to be too long. That's going to be too narrow. Just got to look at it and kind of look all the way across at all of them. Okay, that's about square. If your lines are all evenly spaced, it makes it very even, but if radians that extend out. If those aren't even, then some are going to look square and other ones aren't, and then you just have to kind of compromise. As you notice, these horizontal lines, as I keep going across, they're going to get closer and closer together until I get all the way back to that back wall. But each one's getting a little closer, a little closer. Right there. And that's about it. That really gives it a 3D effect because number one, you have the radians all coming out at you, and then you have all of these horizontal lines, and they're getting closer and closer as they go back, holding our theme of closer is larger and lighter, and farther is smaller and darker. At this point, it's up to you to do a drawing. It should have the following things. You should have, obviously, a back wall, ceiling, floor, door and stairs, and a window on that side. For this project, you're basically going to have to do something like this. Set the drawing up. You have to have a couple of 3D objects at least. You should have a door with some steps. You should have a window, a skylight. You should be showing me that closer is larger and lighter, and farther is darker and smaller. And there's another good example. You can do checker. You got to do some kind of flooring like hardwood flooring, or checkers like they did in the background here. Should all be shaded nicely. Well, good job listening well, and best of luck to you on your drawings.